let's take a look at what this, because the other day we did apraxia. And so take a look at what we are doing dysgraphia today. And you're like, what? What's all this about, Shannon? Okay, so let's take a look at our actual definition and let's see. I don't think there's a lot to be made fun of here. But it's a specific learning disorder in written expression referring to A, the language-based difficulties involved in constructing meaningful and effectively structured expressive writing, and B, ongoing weaknesses in spelling and punctuation that affect a student's capacity to express their ideas with clarity. And this is taken directly from the Dyslexia Spelled Foundation's website. We didn't change a word in it here, but I think for a lot of you, you might look at that and go, oh, we're totally talking about my child here. Or you might even be looking at it and saying, I totally identify myself here. And I just want everybody to take a breath because there, like all things, there's a continuum. And you may have trouble writing, or you might feel that you have trouble writing what you want and what you need. I see a lot of times, though, so many of you will write into the show and express that you are individuals who are on the spectrum, and you will talk very eloquently about the difficulties that you're having in your life. And one of the first things I notice is, my goodness, but you are so eloquent. I find myself saying that most of the time. And sometimes the person will say, this email took me a really long time to do. So I want to be clear that you can have challenges in this area, but not have a disorder. Disorder means that it's really to the point where your life is altered, and that you really can't do it without support. So I like to think of things as being, something that's hard, something that's a challenge, and something that you cannot do without support. Right? So when we're talking about dysgraphia, we're talking this individual is not able to do it without support. But let's take a look. Let's take it down a notch, jargon it down a little bit, and see if we can't get a little honed in more on this. So let's go to our working definition for this. So dysgraphia is a diagnosed learning issue with expressing thoughts through writing. Many individuals with dysgraphia are also dyslexic. And I think that that's one of the most important takeaways from this, that if you yourself or your child is really struggling, and I really, so I was doing a lot of reading about this and seeing that they've really honed this down a lot, because it used to be that dysgraphia would house a whole bunch of things. That you were having trouble with the mechanics of writing as well. And then people said, that's really two different skills. Being able to have the thoughts here and to be able to express them in written word, that's one skill. And the mechanics of it is yet another. Now, so often when we have our kiddos on the spectrum, it's hard to know, am I dealing with both or one of these? Like, what is the true issue here? And I'll be honest with you, there was a time and a place where I think the teachers at school would have said that my son had dysgraphia, because when he would write, he was not writing out his thoughts in a way that anybody could understand them. And the mechanics were so bad, and the spelling and the punctuation was so bad, that I think I certainly would have raised my hand and said, oh, yep, no, I see that my son is having a hard time with that. But then we were also looking at the fact that he was having a hard time with the writing mechanics of it, right? And so everybody was like, oh, that's an OT issue, and it's just the hand, the fine motor, and whatever. But it was right around that time that someone, a very smart someone named Evelyn Kung, said, I think it's an eye issue. And I'm like, what? First, we thought it was, his brain isn't processing to write it out. Then we're like, his hand isn't doing it. And now you're telling me it's an eye issue. But here's the deal. We took him to the developmental ophthalmologist, and they did a whole battery of tests. In fact, Dr. Grampiche was talking about this kind of thing yesterday on Ask Dr. Noreen, and we discovered that his ability to be able to track His eye muscles weren't strong enough to be able to do that he could focus better when his eyes were to the side. So we took care of that, which that in turn helped with the mechanics. And we discovered that the child has no problem being able to express his words on the page. So I just want to give that as a cautionary statement to everybody, that before we all jump and go, oh, I have that, or my child has that, it's so complicated, that there are many different areas to it. And it's really important to have experts evaluate your child. If your child is struggling in any area, if you are struggling in any area, it's okay to go to an expert and say, hey, what's really going on here? And let them take it apart and go, because imagine for a second if I had decided, okay, we're going to treat the dysgraphia one way, and then didn't find out that it was really at the core of it that there was an eye issue. And how long would that have taken us to figure out? So I really am a fan of talking to the experts and saying, there's a challenge here. There's a challenge that might even be considered, something that's debilitating here. What can we do about it? We don't have to label it yet, but what can we do about it? So if your child is struggling with expressing their thoughts in writing, definitely something to be looked at. And I'm loving some of the things that you guys are writing in. Somebody says, I'm dyslexic and autistic and was diagnosed as an adult. And I think we're finding that dyslexia is much more common in autism than maybe previously was thought. If you or your child are on the spectrum and have gotten a dyslexia diagnosis, it was a couple of years ago that we had Bonnie Yates, special education attorney, on, and she went through a whole, I want to say it was more than 2 shows, but went through a whole list of accommodations that might be worthwhile for an individual in early years of school in their IEP if they had dyslexia. And the reason why she did this was, she said, we're finding that a lot of these kids are on the spectrum and also dyslexic. And she was saying, and the accommodations are just really good for all the kids with autism. So I would encourage you to check that out. Look at the Bonnie Yates, the playlist, which I believe is called Your Rights. Yes, Traven, is that what it's called? And thank you, Angel. I never homeschooled my son. I will be honest with you. I thought that might be something that we would need to do, but we didn't. And our experts for our child, and remember, everybody is different, kept saying to us, your child needs the socialization piece because he's an only child. And he had spent a lot of time around adults. And then he started ABA therapy and spent a lot of time around adults. They were like, we need to now get this generalized to being with other kids. So him being in school became a really important aspect for him, for his journey. But it's different for everybody. I just like to say that I have nothing but respect for people who homeschool their children. But honestly, my son and I have a really great relationship, but me as his teacher is a big, put a big buster sign through that. He hates learning from me. It drives him absolutely bonkers. So fortunately, we did not ever need to homeschool, and we, figured it out. And even in this period of time in COVID, he's at home right now. He's a floor above me in class right now. I think he's in honors physics right now. But he's with a teacher on the screen. Thank heavens, not me, because he's at a level of math and science that I can't even figure out when I'm open the book, whether it's upside down or not. That's how bad it is. Like, I don't even understand the symbols. It looks like the Einstein stuff to me, where I'm like, what is that? What is that symbol? I have no idea. So, forget it. I can't teach them. Thanks for watching Autism Live. If you found anything helpful in this video, please give us a like. In fact, make sure that you smash that subscribe button on YouTube and give us a like on Facebook. You can also follow us on Twitter and Instagram for important updates. And please download our free podcast wherever you get your podcasts. See you next time. Until then, give your kiddos a hug from me and one for you too. Bye-bye for now.
To subscribe, click here. And if you'd like to check out some more of our videos, click here.